Rakatha Yahweh, Rakatha Yahweh Shah, Rakatha Yahweh, Rakatha Yahweh Shah, Rakatha Yahweh, Rakatha Yahweh Shah, Call Halal Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah Ba'Hashem, Raha Kadash. Double honors to our elders and apostles, the great millstone, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered across the four winds, and double honors to the men that taught our elders and apostles. This is your brother Yakar Aben from Great Millstone, Houston, back with another lesson. You know, just want to get into lineages, but this is First Peter chapter 2 and verse 2. It says, "As newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby." So, coming into, well, being called, the thing that we have to do is we have to let go of the mindset that we had before coming into this, because growing up, here in America as a Gentile, a Babylonian, most of us were raised in Christianity, and Christianity, really doesn't tell you anything. It kind of, they just feed you along and fleece you for your money. But coming into the ministry, you have to forget all of the nonsense and foolishness that has been taught to you in the world. And you have to go back, and start over. Starting over, some people were more indoctrinated than others, but starting over is just understanding, how the Heavenly Father passes down lineage. Understanding that, there's a bloodline that follows, from Adam all the way down to Yahweh Shah. And that bloodline, well, and that bloodline follows all the way down to modern day. You Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, you Hebrew Israelites, your bloodline is it's followed through, through your father's seed. We've been taught, a lot of brothers don't even know who their father is, being raised by their mother. But as it stands, the Heavenly Father, the seed line comes from the male. We'll get that in, this is Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18. It says, "And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, by their polls." And it says, okay, so we're going to get this pedigrees. Yalad H3205. It says, "To bring forth, begot, gender, travail, childbirth, of distress, beget, to be born." So it says, declare one's birth pedigree. Let's see. Okay. Declare their pedigree. Let's look that word up. Where the pedigree? Because people want to say that, the mother has a part. Salaki, a mother has a part in the pedigree, and that's simply not true. The mother doesn't have anything to do with a child's pedigree. Oh, there we go. Pedigree meaning. It says, a pedigree refers to a record, chart, or line of ancestors showing the lineage, descent, or generic history of a person or animal. It is also broadly used to describe the background, origin, or track record of achievements of an object, concept, or organization. Okay, so your bloodline goes back to your lineage, and your lineage goes back to your father. You know, your father is the one who determines what your lineage is. You know, you are what your father is. Lack of a better term, like for instance, you know, I heard the elder Malcolm speak on it a couple of days ago. If you plant an apple tree in a field, right, that that tree's gonna grow up and grow apples. But if you cut that tree down and you plant an orange tree in that same field in that same spot, then you're gonna get oranges. That's the same way with the Heavenly Father has created man. The Heavenly Father created man to have the seed, you know, the sperma, you know, the sperm is alive and it's planted into the woman, it's planted into the egg, and the egg nurtures it. And then guess what? That seed grows up after his father. You know, we're gonna get that in Wisdom of Solomon. This is a Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, starting at verse 1. It says, I myself also am a mortal man. So we understand what a mortal man means. That means that you're able to die, that you're going to, you know, at some point you're going to die. A mortal man. It says, like to all. So all mortal men are born this way. I myself also am a mortal man, like to all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. Okay, so offspring, let's get that. You know, offspring meaning. It says offspring refers to the immediate descendant or descendants of a person, animal, or plant. It is usually described children or young and can also figuratively mean the product, outcome, result of something. New policy being the offspring of an inventive mind. It says primary, a person's child or children. The young of an animal or living organism resulting from reproduction. Okay, so offspring. Let's go back. It says, of him that was first made of the earth, in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man and the pleasure that came with sleep. So, you know, the child is the seed of man. It goes into the woman's womb. The seed of the sperm goes into the woman's womb. It finds an egg. It goes inside the egg, and then you know it starts to grow, and the child sleeps. The child sleeps while all of this is happening. You know, so it says, and when I was born, I drew in the common air, and fell upon the earth, which is of like nature, and the first voice which I uttered was crying, as all others do. I was nursed in swaddling clothes, and that with cares. For there is no king that have any other beginning of birth. So that right there shows you that, you know, there's no king, mortal men, that has any other beginning of birth. You know, so when people say that, you know, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus didn't have a father, you know, no, that's not true. His father was Joseph, and he had a direct bloodline. He was of the bloodline of Judah, because you know your lineage is not determined by your mother, and we're gonna get that in a couple of just a couple of accounts. This is Genesis chapter 38, and you have to read. We're just going to jump straight to it. This is 38 and 8. It says, and Judah said unto Onan, go in unto thy brother's wife and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. Okay, so you know, when you go back and read the story, you know, Judah had a couple of sons, and his first son got killed by the Lord, And he told his second son to go into his first son's wife, you know, and raise up seed. So let's get that. Brother's wife. Where was it? I missed that. They had it was a word for it, but basically, you know, it's when uh, let me see if I can't find it. It said, "Go into thy brother's wife and raise up seed to thy brother, her and raise on." Confirm. Where was it? I don't know where that word went to. I missed it. I don't know. But anyway, so they understood that the father is the one that raises up the seed. You know, the seed comes from the man. So the woman has no part in the lineage of the child. Although, you know, the Heavenly Father told us not to marry women of the other nations. That was because if you marry a woman, she has a equal standing, right? She's not. She has a higher degree, a higher place than if she's a concubine, and then therefore she would have. She will raise up your children, you know, after the heathen. So we were commanded not to marry them, but there's nothing wrong with having children through them, but letting them know that the children are yours and not hers. You know, here in Babylon, everything is mixed up and backwards. You know, the children are supposed to go with the man because they're his lineage, not the woman. The woman is, you know, not to diminish her role, but she's an incubator. You know, she's the incubator. And when it comes to the spirit, you know, she's not attached to that child like the father because that's the father's seed. But we'll get the account in. This is Genesis chapter 46 and verse 20. It says, "And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him." So Joseph, right? He was. We'll get it here in a second. But Joseph, when he was in Egypt, you know, he married or he had an Egyptian wife, and he had children through this woman, right? And when he had children through this woman, these still are Israelite children. You know, these children are Israelite children, but their mother was an Egyptian. Their mother was an Egyptian, you know, because I mean it tells you right there that she was the daughter of a priest in Egypt. It says Potipharah, he whom Ra gave an Egyptian priest of On, father of Asenath, the wife whom Pharaoh gave to Joseph. So, and look at that, you know, they cover the faces of the judges. You know, this is these are not Egyptians. You know, the Egyptians didn't start lightening up until probably when Ptolemy was over that region after the Greeks. So this was way before that. These were dark-skinned people, very dark-skinned people. But where is it? I think that's in 48, I think. Here it is. This is and it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, "Behold, thy father is sick," and he took with him his two sons Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat up upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, The Most High Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. Okay, there goes that word seed again, Zarar, of seminal, viral. So, it's talking about sperm, seed, figuratively, as an actual seed. So man, the seed of man, the sperm, and it says, and after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt, before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. So, understanding that the father, those are our bloodline descendants of Jacob, Ephraim and Manasseh, even though they were born through an Egyptian woman. And, all the women of the 12 tribes of Israel were not Israelites, because Israel's name was changed. He was changed, and then the people after him were Israelites. None of the women that he implanted were Israelites, only the children. It says, and thy issue, which thou begettest after them, shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. So, understanding that, the father is the progenitor, of the bloodline, and we go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. With that being said, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raha Kadash. Double honors to our elders and apostles, the great millstone, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Shalom. Kwam Bakarium.